In the summer of 1946, a tiny figure of a man with a bloated appearance was really struggling to make it to the front doors of Glasgow South General Hospital. He put up all his fight he could just to make it through the doors. He did make it through the doors, and he met a female receptionist, and it was there he said, "I'm dying. My name is Benny Lynch," the great Benny Lynch, the Scotland's first ever champion of the world, still arguably Scotland's greatest fighter. Here is the demise of the great little man, and I'm going to clear up the reputation in his personal life that was left somewhat tarnished. Sit back, enjoy the great story of Benny Lynch. Started in 1913, born in a tough area of Gorbals in Glasgow to Irish immigrant parents, yes, who didn't get off to a very good start. They come here for a better life. It soon got worse. Mum was playing away with dishonesty between the sheets, and that marriage soon splintered. It left the little Benny Lynch out there, not knowing where his next roof would come from in the tough, rough and often cold streets of Gorbals, Glasgow. He started boxing on the booths, and he was doing okay. He was obviously a tough man, and he turned professional. And it wasn't a particularly bed of roses. He won 8 from 15, so a 50-50 record, give or take. But there was a local bookmaker called Jock Wilson that cast an eye on him and saw through his talents. And he got him to knuckle down because this little warrior, as explained in this video, he was prone to eat and drink a little too much. But when he got him knuckling down, he had his first decent win against Jock Joe Aiken in 1932. And in 1933, he'd beaten Jim Campbell for the Scottish flyweight title. He defended that again successfully against Jim Campbell. In 1935, his finest hour would come. He would take on Jackie Brown for the British Commonwealth, European and World Flyweight Champion in Manchester. And there was thousands of Glaswegians made away on a train to watch the little Benny Lynch. They adopted him as Al Benny to see if he'd become Scotland's first world champion. And did he? He'd done it in some style. Within 4.5 minutes of boxing, listen to this, Jackie Brown, noted as a great fighter, was on the deck no fewer than 10 times. Yes, so there Maid was Scotland's first ever champion of the world. A great style of his time differently. In fact, the best way to describe the great Benny Lynch's style was low hands, was a Prince Nazim, great on his feet, and a Ricky Hatton. He really was a cross. He was forward fighter with low hands, a lightning speed, and he could get away with the defence skills of having low hands. He went on a fantastic 3.5-year unbeaten run. You haven't had that slow start. In fact, he clocked up 78 fights in 3.5 years. It gives you some idea how often he was fighting, how good he was. He continued doing the business. He beat Pat Palmer in London, and it was cool and fine style. And it was now acclaimed from an American, small Montana, saying that the real champion of the world lies over that side of the pond. Well, Al Benny put things straight to right when he went and done the business, and no argument settled. He's now the true world champion. I suppose just a bit like having a WBA and a WBC, etc. But he put the record straight. He continued doing so. He's actually starting to have weight problems, through drinking. He's often coming in some fights overweight, being fined, on one occasion even stripped of his title. But he still managed to fight and beat the brilliant Peter Kane, unbeaten Englishman. Now, Jackie Jurek takes the title from him because he comes in a pound overweight again. But in the fight, he knocks out Jurek with ease. So these are the problems. He's continued to get fined heavily from the British Boxing Board of Control for not making these weights and stripped off titles. So there's a clear sign of something going wrong now. The transpire was drink. He was drinking heavily and not containing his weight. So the decline of this great warrior, the signs are there quite early. But probably the saddest bit in the boxing ring is when he gets knocked out for the first and last and only time of his career. He takes on, he travels to London on a train, and it's reported, there were reporters there, it's factual, that he's drinking whiskey all the way down from Glasgow to London on the train, and sadly, listen to this, he's actually got a bottle of whiskey wrapped in his boxer's towel. Yeah, he's come with his kit, bless him. Can you imagine this? And he's got his kit, and he gets into the ring, yeah. As you can see some footage here, the lightning fast Benny Lynch, he's no longer. A raw Tommer has just done the business on a man. It was clearly just a shadow, a drunkard form of himself. And that lay the end of his career. The British Border Control stripped him down. He actually went into a rehab for 3 months in Kent and England in an attempt to beat the drink. He was tried, and he actually went to a monastery in Ireland, also an attempt to try and get himself clean. But none of this worked, so it was now a post-boxing career for a man that previously ruled in his division. Now, fantastic fighter, but this is where the other side of the story comes, where his legacy stays in the ring, but his reputation is somewhat tarnished, and I've worked really hard to clean this up. So he's hit the bottle, he's become estranged from his wife, all sorts of things are happening. He can't get his boxing licence back, and people are inviting, they want to be out with the first champion of the world in Scotland, and people are keen to buy him a drink, but he's even more keen to buy them. Apparently, Scott's holding on to their money. He was nothing like that. He'd throw it away like confetti. He would throw it away like confetti. So he was quite the opposite of holding on to it. He was giving it away. So he had lots of hangers on, lots of money still around him, and he just starts to dwindle his money away, as it would. There's no work coming in. His wife becomes estranged, as I said. Now, this pattern continues. He does desperately try on occasions, but he's had numerous found in streets, drunk and incapable, etc. His reputation, beyond being a fighter, it now gets tarnished with some of the accusations, and don't always believe what you read in the press. So he's, in many people's eyes, if we believe what's in the press, he's finished his life, he's died, his natural cause, his life, he's gone from this world as a man that struck his wife, a man that struck his 11-year-old sister-in-law, a man that was attempted to gas his own 18-month-old baby son, a man that was drunk behind a wheel, collided with a post and hit the baby's pram, and more, more sinister in here of all, really, the biggest sin, if it can get any worse. He gets done for assaulting a 7 and 10-year-old girl in a cinema. So, and this man's got a statue outside of the block of flats where he was raised in Glasgow, and a lot of people have just seen the other side to this once loved character. But allow me to paint the picture, the real picture. His wife had written a full story to a national newspaper, and she said he was a kind, gentle soul. The only one time he ever laid a hand on her was that time when he got done for assaulting her, and in fact they had a heated row, and all he did and ever did was kicked her in the foot. He didn't punch her, he didn't slap her around the face, he kicked her in somewhere in the shin area, and the little 11-year-old sister come to a sister's aid, and he pushed her, she pushed him, he pushed her, she went out in the street, called the police. The attempted gassing of the baby son never was, plus he was never guilty of that. He was cleared of that in court. He denied the charges of hitting his wife and striking his 11-year-old sister-in-law, but he did admit 3 charges with the police officers, a bit different. So let's clear that one up, yeah? Now, driving drunk, yes, he said he struck the pram. Of course he was drunk, and the drunk driving, but nobody was hurt. The baby mother was uninjured, but again it was pushed to another area where he didn't mow down the mother and baby and kill the baby. His vehicle bounced off a telegraph pole and touched the pram, but what he was guilty of there was drink driving or dangerous driving, but nobody was hurt. So again, that was enhanced, and arguably the most heinous accusation of all is that he assaulted two young girls, a 7-year-old and 10-year-old, in a cinema. Now, naturally, people think that potentially here this is a sexual assault. Well, it was never ever mentioned sexual assault, and it wasn't a sexual assault. What had happened, I've been deep into the newspaper archive, and I'm going to try and get that up on screen, if you can read that. But what happened in the cinema, he went in drunk, sat down beside 4 little girls, and one of the little girls said, "Please, would you not sit next to me, as I don't like sitting next to men." And he put his arm around the girl in an headlock position. We can only assume, and his solicitor claimed, jokingly, "You'll be safe with Uncle Benny, it's no trouble." And the little girl cried and got a stall attendant, people that sets the stalls out, called the police. The little girl was crying, and it went to court, and he found just £1. Never ever any sexual motive at all. He was drunk, "You're safe with me, it's no trouble," and the other little accusation of assaulting the other little girl was dropped. So that was it. It was never sexual. In so much fact, but if you leave it behind, it could deem that, and that's what the press somewhat led it to believe. And if any of these happenings were believed by Al Benny, if he created these terrible crimes that they tried to paint, which they were the crimes: a kick in the shin, pushed my 11-year-old sister-in-law out the way, just pushed her out the way, she pushed him. That was one. Drunk, hit a lamppost. A lot of people have done that. Nobody was hurt. That was 2. 3, put his arm around the little girl's neck. "You're safe with Uncle Benny, no trouble, I'm the former champion of the world." And there was found 1 guinea. Never once did he go to prison. Never once, just remanded overnight. Never once he went to prison. Now, if these crimes, horrendous crimes, were committed, he wouldn't have had 2,000 people at his funeral, would he? He was still Al Benny in Glasgow in Scotland. Yeah, he had a send-off of the celebrity he was. He later rested in Glasgow Cemetery, and that was it. A poor little Benny, but I'm just really pleased to mop it up. What a great fighter. Tried terribly hard to get off the drink. Actually wasn't quite the layabout drunk in alleyways that people thought. He was still active and employed. He was trying hard. He was done some in the Merchant Navy. Yeah, and he actually won a couple of court cases against him. And he actually he had some money back then. It was £55 he left in his will. He wasn't completely drunk, broke, on the streets. He had a little bit of money. £55 then was like some £6,000 of today. So he had some money and he was still working, but he just could not beat the demon of the bottle, of the whiskey. Why it was on his upbringing, who knows, yeah? But the accusation of any sexual molestation of children, totally rubbish. Never happened. The gassing of, an attempted gassing of his 18-month-old son, totally rubbish. And I'd just like to think, and apparently one of the nicest blokes, yeah, sober, maybe not the most educated bloke, but apparently one of the nicest blokes out there, very free, but what a great fighter. So I'd like to see the best in people. I've dug deep to find this information, and I don't want his reputation. I think he deserves that plaque and statue out there, and I say God bless and rest you, the little warrior. He really was a free-hand, low-handed, fast footworking, extremely hard punching, very talented man. And I think Scotland, you should, for all reasons, remain proud of him, and all of us Brits. I hope you've enjoyed the insight to Al Benny, as the Glaswegians, the Scottish people had him as, and it probably should be as British people. Al Benny Lynch as well, yes, a superb fighter of his day. He truly was a super talent. May your good rest in peace. Thanks for tuning in.